Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
We are gathered here tonight to celebrate the release of Down for the Count, the Y&T album review by Tim Durling. I don't know why I'm using this voice.
Whoa, this is a spooky one.
Just go with it.
It's January. It's been a hell of a week, guys.
Oh,
I'm glad to be
first week
spending
back to
tonight
work,
with you.
and I swear I've never done it before. It's like, what? I got to go in today, too? Like, what's up with that?
Right? I mean, oh my God. Anyway, real quick, thank you everyone for watching. We have Tim Durling, author of Down for the Count, the Y&T album review. We have Jex Russell from jexcaliber.wordpress.com, and of course, the Snowman from Too Loud Too Old Music with a really nifty new backdrop too.
Yeah, I changed my office. I turned the desk.
I also noticed you have another Tim Durling publication behind you.
Yeah, over here.
Yeah. This is your second book, Tim.
You guys are awesome. Yes. Yes. I didn't even think I'd get a first one, but things happen, you know?
He's humble. You can tell. Anyway, as you guys know, we always like to start the show with a little thing called Ask Harrison, but Harrison is not here tonight. So instead, we have a question for Tim Durling. Are you ready? Yeah. That
Okay.
Guy. Okay.
Yeah, that Tim Durling.
Let's do it. Wrong video. Let's do it. Hey, Tim. It's Mike from Grab a Stack of Rock. And I have a question for you about tpublic.com. Now, I've heard through the grapevine from a unnamed rock band that they put out crappy quality shirts. Now, I haven't experienced this myself. What's your experience with the quality of tpublic.com t-shirts? Let me know.
Well, I can only speak to my own personal experience, but this is a nice shirt from TeePublic.
Very nice.
With the book art on it, and it's got some other cool things in the back.
Wow.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Fits good. If I can find a shirt fits around my dad bought, then mission accomplished. Also just got this from TeePublic.
Very nice.
I like that.
And what else did I have out here? Oh yeah, it's button. Not to mention this button. Now, you know, this has been an inside joke, and you know, we've been talking about this, but I think it's important that people know that that myself and Mike and John and the Contrarians, we've all got merch available through TeePublic, and it's important that people know that we're standing behind the quality of this stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, someone else had a bad experience. It's good quality merchandise.
That's a funny way of putting it, Tim.
And if you don't like it, don't touch the merchandise.
Hey,
So,
Harrison.
Thanks for watching.
Hello, Harrison. Thank you for designing that excellent Lego figurine of Rock the Robot. Yeah, nothing wrong with TeePublic, guys. We've all got TeePublic accounts, so you know, if you're hankering for a new T-shirt or a pin or a mug or a travel mug or a hoodie,
A flamethrower?
stickers.
No, wait, that was Spaceball. Jack's got that.
I have a hoodie. I love my hoodie.
Yeah, man, the hoodie was a summer staple for me in the mornings. Yeah.
I wear it all the time, and
Yep.
it's so comfortable.
There you go. You got Visions
Now,
and Sound,
as
Contrarians.
far as copyright, I actually think TeePublic are up on their copyrights. I've had designs taken down. John's had designs taken down.
Yeah, but mine was wrong.
You're over aggressive.
Over aggressive.
Yeah, mine was over aggressive.
My point is, I don't know what they're talking about when they're saying this unauthorized. I don't understand. So I think it's important if we're all utilizing TeePublic. I stand behind this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
but we're not here to talk about TeePublic.
enough said about that, right?
Guys, for full disclosure to the audience, Tim is the author of the book, but the three of us also contributed. So we're a little bit biased here. We all love the book, but we are, full disclosure, a little bit biased. I'm sure you guys have stuff you want to talk about, but I wanted to start with just a simple question. Tim, after you'd written your first book, Unspooled, An Adventure in 8 Tracks, obviously the idea for this book came to mind. What was it that made you decide Y&T was going to be the band that you were going to dedicate your first, non-pictorial book to?
Well, if you'd have asked me 10 years ago, what band would you like to do a book about? I would have said Y&T. If you'd asked me 20 years ago, what band would you like to do a book about? I'd say Y&T. If you'd asked me in 1990, what band would you like to do a book about? I'd say Y&T. Now, I would have probably said, well, I'd buy a book about Y&T. Surely somebody must have a book about Y&T.
Nope.
Here we are in 2024, and it appears that it's us. You're looking at it.
The
And-
Neil,
and-
Arm-
and
the
many
Neil
other
Armstrong of Y&T books right there.
Well, hey, it needed to be done.
Well, we have Roger in the house. He would have said Taylor Swift. He's not telling the truth. Well, I know that Tim does have that closet Taylor Swift thing, but we're not going to go there tonight. It all started with Def
The
Leppard.
next room over, there's probably a few Taylor Swift CDs that my daughter had.
There you go,
That's
Roger.
about the closest. No, although I should look into that because those originals might be worth something now that she's re-recorded
Yeah.
them all.
That may
But
be.
anyway,
But we're not here to talk about Taylor Swift.
no, how did that? Yeah, okay.
So maybe I'll throw it to John first. If you have any comment, question that you want to bring
Well,
up.
my main comment is I'm different than most everybody else in the book because I think everybody else in the book were already fans. For me, I hadn't listened to them. I knew Summertime Girl, and that kind of put me off. So with some nudging from Tim, I listened to a couple albums, Earthshaker and Black Tiger. And then I immediately went and bought the little box set and stuff. But I don't like the box set, by the way.
Mm.
It splits the albums.
Yeah,
It-
they overlap.
It has
Now
some
I got to go
issues.
back and buy all the albums.
It has some issues, and the only reason I bought it was for completist purposes. But
Yeah.
I understand what they were doing. They were trying to get as much onto as many discs as they could. But I know what you mean. Like it would have been nice if they'd have been able to put 2 complete albums on 1 disc.
I'd have been
Instead of
happy with
having-
one on a disc and then just
Yeah.
had 6 discs in there or whatever.
My
the case.
favorite part about that Earthquake set is the fact that the discs themselves look like the old A&M records labels. But yeah, there's some issues there.
Yeah. So, how long did it take you to come up and basically do the book?
It came together a lot quicker than I would have thought from, initial idea. It was the success of Unspooled and also the fact that you could now publish on Amazon print to order, and I didn't have to pay someone to print up 100 books and then ship them to me and me ship them out to someone else. It just made things so much smoother and cheaper and easier and quicker. It took me a while to get enough panelists, I'll be honest with you. And that's, I started out with people that I knew were into Y&T. And I guess, John, I thought you were already into the band. I guess for some reason, I thought you were. So,
Which is fine.
It worked
it's
out.
great.
It worked out.
Great. I love the fact that I'm introducing people to this band because that's all I've ever wanted to do.
Right.
Is spread the word, is get more people interested in listening to this fantastic band that just flew under the radar for a lot of people.
Right.
So yeah, I've got people that have been into the band from the very beginning. I've got people that were just into the band and all points in between, which is great.
Right.
And
No,
I just
I'm
say,
like a big fan now, so I'm wanting to go get the Yesterday and Today albums, and I want to go all the way up to Face Melter now. So I'm in.
may I just say that I'm surprised that John was turned off by Summertime Girls because, me and him having the same kind of love for, Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, all those bands. I would have thought, since I loved that song as a kid, he would have as well.
I don't know what it was about that song. It was an okay song. And I don't know, when you look at some of the covers of their albums, I think like Black Tiger and Mean Street, I thought they were like this metal band from those covers. And then you get Summertime Girl, and I was like, well, I don't want to listen to that. I wanted the heavy metal stuff. Forget it. I'm not even going to try them. So I think that's why I kind of got turned.
I think that and we touch on that in the book. I think there's maybe a little bit of an identity crisis at different times. And I think there was a lot of pressure try different things. But anybody watching who's seen me do interviews about this book, there's like, I know exactly what he's going to say because he repeats himself all the time. Well, whatever. I'm going to bring it up. I'm about to say it again to anyone out there because, Summertime Girls was Y&T's only song that hit the Billboard Hot 100. It hit number 55 in the summer 85. The video got a lot of play. And if people know one song by that band, it's probably that, which I think it's a great pop song. But here's the point I've been making to people. And I think I want people to try to understand this, like try in your minds to envision a world where Y&T was a huge band. Tons of books about them. Tons of things have been written about them. But then this other band called Van Halen was the band that everyone's like, hey, why didn't they do better? They were really good. But to the mainstream public, imagine if the only song you ever heard from Van Halen was Jump.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing, guys. Great song. It's a classic. It's a pop classic. Doesn't tell the whole story. Then you go play them something like Unchained or Running with the Devil, and you're like, oh, wow, these guys are heavy. It's very much the same thing with Y&T. They're certainly not the only band to lighten up their sound in an attempt to, finally break through, right? And to a certain extent, it worked. I think they had a crappy record label that didn't know how to market them properly.
Yeah, that's
so.
And that comes up frequently in the book.
There is that disconnect between if that's the song you know by them, and then you see the awesome, like really metal looking artwork on Black Tiger and Meat Streak. It's like, this can't be the same band. Well, yeah, it is. It is.
It's
in
a lot.
Kind of look at them. It's the exact same band.
Yeah, it's like Extreme. You had more than words.
I was about to say exactly that.
Yeah.
It's Extreme, Mr. Big.
Extreme was also on A&M, funnily enough.
They were.
Ooh, good point, Jax.
A&M Records did not know what to do with a hard rock band.
Yeah.
They just didn't.
Check out the big brain on Jax. So Jax Russell, what's your story? What do you want to say?
Well, I just want to tell Tim that I love the approach of the book, how it's not just your typical biography. It's not like, hey, Y&T was formed in so-and-so on this year. It's really a focus on their discography, which is good because you really go album by album. And then the readers can be like, well, this album might not sound like my cup of tea, but then you get to another one, but I might enjoy this one. So it kind of gives them a guide to where to start. You might like this, you might like that. I was just wondering where you came up with the idea that you weren't going to just write it yourself, but you were going to invite a group of panelists. How did that kind of come about?
I'll tell you exactly where it came from. It's from Martin Popoff and his album by album series. Because I'm not sure. I'm sure there's some people out there that have at least one of Martin's album by album books. I only have a couple of them. I have the Queen one and the Rush one. Queen one's one of my all-time favorites in his books. I've read that I don't know how many times.
And I've read that a lot.
This is where I got the idea from, because it's basically, it's like you're sitting around with 3 or 4 people and you're asking them all the same questions about one album, and what they get back is your content. So I totally modeled it after those books, because I'm like, yeah, this is a good way of getting content. First of all, Jax, I did not want to do any, like, there's a little tiny bit of biographical stuff in there, but honestly, I would say to anyone, go to yntrocks.com and order the On With the Show documentary. That is the best. I think it's the best assembled, best put together documentary on a rock band ever.
Really? Okay.
It's an effortlessly enjoyable watch. I learned, as a longtime fan, there were so many things I didn't know. For example, just one small example, I didn't know there were guys in the band before the 4 that I always thought were the original guys. Now, I can't think of their names, and they're not mentioned in the books because they never recorded anything. But there were guys in Y&T before, like Joey and Phil, I think. I could be wrong. I got mixed up about that, but I didn't know that. I had no idea. There's a lot of people testimonials by other musicians about the band, like Eric Martin from Mr. Big, Frank Hannon from Tesla, Bobby Blotzer from Rat, Don Dawkins, Sammy Hagar, Fred Corey from Cinderella. Lots of people are talking about this, about the band and their music. So I couldn't hope to compete with that.
Right.
I wanted to focus on the albums, and I really wanted something to say, okay, do you think you're interested in this band? Sometimes, I mean, if you go to the band's website, you can say, okay, well, here are their albums. But I wanted someone to be able to pick up a book and go, what am I missing by them? Because, you know, there's some people that might have thought that they put 2 or 3 records out in the 80s and then disappeared. No, they started before the 80s and they're still going now. So I really wanted something that detailed all of that. And I really wanted to get as many folks as I could find that were into the band to get differing opinions on the questions that I kind of steered the questions in a particular direction, but the answers were the answers. Sometimes I agreed with people, sometimes I didn't. It wasn't about that. It was fans talking about the music.
Right.
Did that answer your question? I go off sometimes.
No, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No. And it's fun to see the differing opinions too, you know, like it seems not everyone's always on the same page, but that's what makes it interesting, you know.
The other great thing about this band too is that if you like hard rock music, this band's got something for everyone. You know, they've got bluesier stuff, they've got heavier stuff, they've got poppier stuff. It's all Y&T.
Ballads.
They've got fantastic ballads.
Yeah. There's variety there for sure.
There's a lot of variety within a hard rock context. There's all of these ingredients that just go back to what I always thought from the first time that I get into this band. Why weren't they bigger? Why weren't they more successful? They had everything going musically that a band could want at different points in their career where they could have broken through. And it's kind of investigating that and digging into that. Like, what could it possibly have been? Because it wasn't the music.
No.
It was timing.
Timing, record label.
Image, or the lack thereof.
I mean, when Summertime Girls came out, was that 87?
It was 87.
85.
It was a crowded field. You had Leopard, you had Whitesnake, you had Guns N' Roses, you
Motley
had
Crue.
No. Sorry. I can't. It's 85. 85 is when Summertime Girls was out. So
sorry, 85.
Whitesnake hadn't come back.
I was just thinking the 87. There was something they had in 87.
85 was the perfect time for a song like Summertime Girls to score. I just think they had a crappy record label that did not promote them because they give the label. Okay, so the true story is that they came up with this song and they kind of liked it. They start, and they demoed it. They gave it to this one rep from A&M who hated it, kicked the tape across the parking lot. So they shrugged their shoulders. Grant, this is the end of their A&M contract, I might add. Okay. This is towards the tail end. And they liked the song, so they started doing it live. Then they put this live album together called Open Fire. And it's not on the main released version, but on the deluxe version, there's a live version of it. So it's on the master tapes. Some other A&M rep heard the song and go, whoa, what's that song? What's that song? That sounds like a hit. So on a rush, sends them into the studio and records it. And what do? The label? They stick it on a live album. Who's going to make their first purchase from a band a live album?
Very few.
Someone's going to say Kiss Alive. This is different.
Right. Yeah.
Who's going to hear a studio song on the radio? I'm going to buy this live album of songs I've never heard of.
Yeah.
So they stick the studio version on Open Fire, and then a few months later, Down for the Count, the album comes out. They stick it on there too. They don't use the identifiable logo. They use this up and down black logo that disappears on the front cover of the album. It's a pink album cover with a vampire and a robot. It's a stupid album cover. And you wonder, like John Kolodner from Geffen, who eventually signed them, says, my 5-year-old niece could have made Summertime Girls a hit. So there was a lot. It's very much timing. They made decisions that might have seemed like the right decision, but not at the right time. Maybe the name's a little confusing. I used to run into that with people. I'd list my favorite bands, and someone would inevitably stop and say, wait, what?
Right.
Of course, Harrison's first purchase is from bands.
Right. Now this is the
we're not talking about die-hard music fans that are watching. We're talking about the mainstream, right? The big wide world out there. They hear a song on the radio, they go buy the album. What happens when you hear a song on the radio and you go and look for the album, and you're like, well, I don't know who it is, and well, what's Y&T mean?
Well, you said in
the
yourself
moment
in the
died.
book.
And the moment died.
You said
Right.
yourself in the book that you've seen it like filed in record stores as yanted.
Yeah,
You know?
I've seen it. Yeah, I distinctly remember it. Here in Canada, people might remember Radioland.
Yeah.
Radioland was a chain, and they would have, you know, the CDs and cassettes alphabetized, and they'd have the little, remember those label makers that you'd make click.
Dymo
click,
guns.
Yeah.
Dymo
And
tape.
You could make your own little labels. It literally, it said YANDT, Yant, almost like Yanni.
And you know, in the digital age, it gets even more confusing because it is Y and T, but that doesn't work as a URL. So, you know, it gets even more confusing.
It doesn't work as a hashtag.
Yeah.
No.
When you put an ampersand in a hashtag, it makes it another one. Yeah. I was talking to just last night. I was talking to Joe Beck about this on Instagram. Like, I don't do Spotify or anything like that, but when I post to Instagram, I like to have music to go with my posts, and it's taken me a long time to figure out how to find Y&T on there. You have to go Y space ampersand space T.
Oh.
And it's there's a lot of, I shudder to think how a lot of pivotal points along the way, it might have just come down to a radio programmer not knowing how to say the name or not knowing how to file them, so they just get ignored.
That's
because,
such
as
a
I
huge
say,
factor.
It wasn't the music.
No.
No,
And another
it's
thing
not.
that comes up frequently in the book, and I think these are maybe the top two factors in the book that we've been discussing: the name and the lack of music video support.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a huge factor. MTV came on the air in 1981, and anyone who's ever looked at the videos that MTV played on their first day would be surprised at because there weren't a lot of videos.
That's right.
The channel was desperate for music videos, so they didn't have to repeat videos. They would have played, you know, anything a major label gave them, and A&M had artists doing videos. You know, they had Squeeze and Split Ends and 38 Special and Joe Jackson, and, you know, but Y&T did 2 albums on A&M. Their first 2 A&M albums, Earthshaker and Black Tiger, not a video. 1981 and 1982 passed by, not one stinking video. And then by the time Mean Street came out in 1983, they get 1 video from an album.
Yeah. And
So,
it wasn't a good video.
No, but it did get a big surprise. And I mentioned this in the book. When the first time they get a video, guess what? They have an album chart for the first time in the States.
Right. Coincidence?
I don't think that's a coincidence, right?
No.
So there's that lost time that you can't get back. That momentum, right? Harrison is a unicorn. Yes.
That's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful comment, Roger. Yeah, you know what?
It's just one of those. There's so many things where it's like, if they'd only done this, or if this had only happened, or if that had only happened.
And that's a constant in this book, unfortunately. But you know, it is part of the Y&T tale.
Yeah.
Well, it is, but you know, the silver lining, like the nice part about it is that the guys, you know, everybody that's been in the band, they've all been really cool about it.
Yeah.
And they've all said, look, we've got, you know, fans all over the world. They've got one of the most diehard fan bases, right? You know, we're small, but we're out there, right? Hey, Marty. And in the mid 90s, you know, what I call the dark times for commercial hard rock music, there was a sort of leveling that happened. You know what I mean? Like most bands, even the biggest of bands, got knocked down several pegs. And to the point where today Y&T play on these festivals like they're doing the M3 later this year, alongside bands that were sold way more albums than them. And I think there may be a perception that they may have been a more successful band than they actually were, because they've just never they've just kept their noses to the grindstone and just kept doing
Right.
it. David McKetty is 70 years old. He's the only surviving original member. He's still out there kicking it, and he's still doing a really good job at it. So, so I think there's something to be said for just, obviously this is a guy that got into music for the right reasons. You know, it wasn't all about chasing, you know, the gold records or whatever.
And no breakup during that period either, right?
Well, there was a hiatus. There was a hiatus from the end of 1990 till about 94, 95.
Right.
That was more to do with just being frustrated at plugging away for 3 different labels, none of which could make them into stars.
Right.
And just saying, you know what, I don't want to, I want to stop the world. I want to get off, to reference Extreme, you know, like it's just, Dave wanted to build a home studio. And, you know, by this time in their career, it was basically Dave and then Phil Kennemore, the bass player. They were, I call them the Paul and Gene of the band, or the James and Lars of the band. You know what I mean? Like the 2 main guys. Right. It was basically them, and you know, at this point, the original band had it wasn't the original band anymore. So it's not like the 4 original guys collectively decided to break up, and there was no animosity. It was like, I'm tired of doing this, but then after a while, you miss doing it. So, in the space of 50 years, a little 4-year break or so doesn't seem like much now. So no, they've never really stopped.
Yeah. I want to throw it back to Jex and John real quick. For both of you guys, what's it feel like seeing your names in print?
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, yeah.
Great feeling.
It's weird.
It's I agree.
Guys, it's weird seeing my name in print. I'm still not used to it.
You had your face in your last book, I think, didn't you? In Unspooled, you had your face in it. I mean, that's even bigger than your name. I mean, literally, your name's Tim. It's just tiny. Look how humble this guy is. So I'm just gonna, captain the ship for a second here and pontificate. By supporting this book, you are supporting a great channel on YouTube and the chance that this guy might try to put pen to paper again. And it's not that expensive. You can get it on your Amazon. It'll be there in days. Oh, yeah. And to be honest with you, I'm enjoying it not just because I'm learning about Y&T, but because I'm already a fan of guys like Martin Popoff,
right,
Pete Pardo, Peter Kerr. And if you're watching, I am a fan. And listen,
but the way you said his name, it's like, by the way, if you're watching, happy birthday, Pete.
Oh, it's his birthday. Happy birthday, Pete.
Happy birthday.
You said it like his name is spelled like Pardeaux. Pardo.
Pete Pardo. My point being that a lot of the people who are watching this right now are familiar with those guys from the Contrarians, from Steve Tranquility and whatnot, Rock Daydream Nation. And one thing I'm enjoying, especially with Martin Popoff, is I'm reading this and I'm hearing it in his voice.
Oh, I do that too.
Same. Right? All of you guys, I hear your voices when I'm reading your passages.
Well, we all have our own cadence, if you like. Yeah. And here's what I like. I want to say this. I don't think I've actually said this to him, but I'll embarrass him publicly. No, Jex. One thing I really like about Jex is the fact that he'll take a little extra time and research things.
Yes, I noticed.
Because there's 2 instances in the book where everybody else answers a question. Well, I'm not sure what that means. Jex took the time to look things up. There's 2 instances. There's one in the first album and there's one in Mean Streak. And it's like, that's so Jex. He's so thoughtful that way. Like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this.
I didn't want to answer willy-nilly. I'm like, I'm going to make sure I have the right information here.
And then you talk about name recognition, and I might as well say it as anyone else. There is the little matter of the artwork on the front of the book itself.
Right.
Yeah. Little.
Please
Mike,
tell.
What can you tell the folks about this?
Well, you are going to tell the folks about this, but what I can set up for you is that as soon as
you're gonna do the heavy lifting.
It's your interview.
Your channel.
Okay, fine. Look, this is Tim's last appearance on the show. But listen, I was obviously, in the know on this book from the ground floor when Tim asked me and these other 2 gentlemen to participate. And as soon as he had the cover art in hand, he sent me a picture of it. And I looked at it immediately. And it struck me as very Rush, very Clockwork Angels immediately. And I said, Tim, that's Hugh Syme. because he has such a distinctive visual style. Now, I don't think I was really fully thinking that Hugh Syme had done Y&T album covers at that moment, because I'm not like you guys. I was kind of like, here I go into the Y&T boat, you know, but I was blown away immediately. That is awesome artwork. And of course, you know, there's going to be references in here to past Y&T songs or something. Tim, you better start talking, because I don't know the details.
I mean, it's surreal, guys. And I'm trying to be humble about it, because I'm so blown away. I'm so blown away by it, because I'm a guy that, you know, when Mike and I have talked about this, I'm a guy that grew up not just listening to music, but combing through the liner notes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Learning the names of the producers and the songwriters and the studios and the mastering engineers, and yes, the cover designers. So even if I wasn't a diehard Rush fan, which I am, even if I wasn't, there are still a ton of albums in my collection designed by Hugh Syme. Whitesnake, 1987.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whitesnake, Slip of the Tongue. Coverdale Page. Bon Jovi, New Jersey. Aerosmith, Get a Grip, believe it or not.
Right.
Great White, Hooked. Warrant, Cherry Pie.
Brighton
Ones You
Rock.
Wouldn't Expect. That's
Sure.
right.
Yeah.
Honeymoon Suite, The Big Prize. I kid you not.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Rush, it's everything from Caress of Steel onwards. Like, only the first album, Fly By Night, Hugh did not do.
Oh, Harrison.
The X Factor,
The X
absolutely.
Factor.
The X
Right.
Factor, yes.
Yeah.
Countdown to Extinction, Euthanasia.
Yeah.
And once you start picturing a lot of those album covers, you go, I see it. I see
Yeah.
it. I see it.
Yeah.
And so when Hugh sent, so the short version is I was reaching out to people that were on the peripheral, somehow related, and Hugh designed Y&T's album Contagious from 1987.
That's
Probably
actually somebody else. It's
That's
not
Ken
that's
Kelly.
not yeah.
Ken
That's
Kelly.
Ken
Ken
Kelly.
Kelly, yeah.
Although Hugh did design Revenge, he did that album cover.
That's right. The battleship, the bullet hole battleship armor. Yeah.
And even if you look at even if you look at the printing inside the booklet of a Hugh Syme designed album,
Very
it's all
distinctive.
the same font.
Yeah.
Some band with an album called "It's a Business Doing Pleasure" will go with that. Even Tesla bust a nut.
That's right. Yes.
This really elaborate.
A lot of mechanics. There's a lot of
Yes.
mechanics in his artwork too.
A lot
Yeah.
of overly complicated things, right?
A lot of there's like a balance of nature and mechanics. Like you see that, you know, in a lot of his art, and lo and behold, there's a field with birds and a mechanical Y and a mechanical T.
And so Hugh Syme was one person that actually got back to me, and all I wanted to ask him about was if he'd had something quick to say about how he ended up doing the Contagious album cover, which for those that haven't seen it, there's black and white photos in the book. I wanted to make sure I had the album covers in there. But it's basically it's like a vial. It's backwards. A vial that's been broken, and whatever was in it is getting out, which is why I laughed out loud with glee when I noticed this on top of the T.
Yeah, there it is.
So I'm like, that's a
there
nod
it
to
is.
the album cover he designed. Anyway, so he answered my questions. There wasn't much to talk about. He mainly dealt with John Kolodner at Geffen Records, right? That Whitesnake album got him a lot of work with Geffen Records, like a lot of Black and Blue and a bunch of different stuff. But then he just, Tim, do you have anybody? Because I talked to him on the phone. He gave me his phone number. It was pretty amazing. And here I am talking to Hugh Syme. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So he basically said, Tim, do you got anybody doing a cover for you? And I'm thinking, is Hugh Syme offering to do a book cover for me? You know, all the, not just rock bands, but all genres of music. This guy has worked with artists. He's done print ads. He's done advertisements, like amazing, right? Super nice guy to talk to. And he was very generous at giving someone who had no budget a good deal. And he came up with this beautiful steampunk looking album cover that honestly, it reminds me of one of the ones he did for Queensryche. It reminds me, it's got the Promised Land here in the now
Yes.
frontier look.
Yeah.
Coloration is the same, the brown coloration.
Which is fine by me.
Yeah.
And it's definitely eye-catching. There's no question about it. And given
Immediately.
the fact that he's not familiar, like they're clients, right? Like he doesn't listen to all of these bands he's worked with. It's a job, right? He doesn't know the music, but the happy accidents, like there's a tornado in the background in here, okay? Like hurricane. There are moons on the back of this, like from the moon, like just happy little accidents, right? It's to this day, I picked this, like I would buy this if I saw this and be like, there's a book on Y&T and Hugh Syme did the album. Sure.
Yeah.
Our good friend Sean Kelly
Mm-hmm.
came through with an awesome forward. Everybody that participated in this book, including all of you guys, you all stepped up and knocked it out of the park. And to me, it makes no difference whether you're a world-renowned album cover designer or a YouTuber. Everybody stepped up. Everybody came to and just gave their all. So, that's why I wanted to make sure at the end of the book in the contributor bios, I made sure it listed everybody's channels and gave everybody a chance to write their own bios and say, this is how you get in touch with these people. What were we talking about? Was that's basically how I ended up with a Hugh Syme album cover or book cover. I keep wanting to say album cover.
It counts. It counts. I mean, if they ever put out a book of Hugh Syme's artwork, it'd be a crime not to have that in there, right?
And it's gorgeous. Yeah.
Yep. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask, because you mentioned Sean Kelly doing the forward. I'm kind of curious how that came about. Did you approach him or like?
Yeah,
Sorry, a B part to that question, because I wanted to find something out myself about this. Am I the guy who put you in touch with Sean Kelly initially?
You absolutely are, yeah. Because well, okay, partly. I reached out to Sean because Sean and I had both been on the Contrarians with Martin, but on different episodes. And Sean did an episode where, like, the Contrarians, we've branched out and done a lot of different topics, but it started out as defending an album by someone that most people wouldn't call their best, but you think it is, and you're going to tell them why you think that is. And Sean talked about Cinderella's Heartbreak Station, and he spoke so well about it. That was never my favorite Cinderella album. Then I was like, well, I got to go listen to this now because I like what this guy's got to say about it. And so I reached out to him. I said, hey, Sean, we've been like ships in the night on the Contrarians. Hey, Darcy, and wondering if you'd be interested. Well, what I did is I reached out to him when he put out his Don't Call It Hair Metal book, which is an awesome book. Did an interview with him too recently on the Distortion Den. If you grew up in the 80s like I did listening to this kind of music, you really need to buy this book. So I knew that he was highly knowledgeable. I didn't know per se if he was a Y&T fan, but he was game. He was up for it, and he came through with a great forward. And this is the beauty of it. I mean, here's a professional musician that's played with all kinds of cool people, and he's telling me he's really gotten into listening to Y&T after doing that forward because he had to do the research. That's all I've ever wanted. Is to spread the word about this band. And one of my favorite quotes is from Chaz Cetra, who's been a great help. And actually, as we're filming this, Jex and Chaz and I are going to be on an episode tomorrow morning.
That's right.
So, but Chaz said, I think that this band has a lot of fans in waiting. And I'm like, nailed it. Because if you like this type of music, if you're, watching any of our channels, chances are, if nothing else, you're a fan of 80s hard rock. If you like Van Halen, if you like Aerosmith and, Rat, Def Leppard, chances are you'll like Y&T. Like they're not, they're not so heavy. Like they're not thrash heavy. They're not even like Maiden or Priest heavy, although they come close to those. Like they rock very, very hard, but they can be very, very melodic at the same time. And Meniketti has just got this awesome sort of Sammy Hagar-esque voice. He's an amazing guitar player. They've always had top-notch musicians in the band. Whoever's played with them. people just got to hear them. And I think not enough people got to hear them. So if I can get one person listening to them and buying their music that didn't before, I feel like I've accomplished something. And I'm pretty sure I've accomplished that with all three of you, if nothing else.
Yeah.
I know we did it with Mike because John the Music Nut and I, John's also in the book,
Right.
contributed some great content. We ganged up on Mike and made him purchase. Yeah, as
I remember that.
we were doing the episode, I'm like, you got to get this and you got to get that and you got to get that for a start. Which reminds me, Mike, have we got time for an unboxing?
Oh, we absolutely have time for an unboxing. Yes. Are you wanting to do an unboxing?
If John or Jex, I've been hogging the conversation here.
I'll tell you what. I want to hear from Jon Snow one more time before we do the unboxing, and then maybe I'll see if I can get Rob Daniels on board for the unboxing. I'm just kidding. But Snowman mentioned earlier on that you kind of dove in, like you bought a box set. You didn't go.
I bought a box set.
Yeah, so like
Earthquake.
So how are you sitting with Y&T right now? Like you're absorbing it still, I imagine.
I'm absorbing it still. I'm really, I know Earthshaker and I know Black Tiger now, since those are the ones I was involved in on those chapters. So I'm still working on Down for the Count. Open Fire, I really like the live album. But after going through the disc and stuff, and with that box set, like doing half the album here, half the album there, I can't get the full picture. Okay. So I want to get the albums and dive right in.
You want to get the albums for the liner notes and all of that.
All that.
And you really want, if you can, in the case of Black Tiger, Mean Streak, and in Rock We Trust, you definitely want to get the remastered versions that the band put out in 2005.
Right.
If you can, because they've got bonus songs on them.
Bonus tracks.
And
that's one.
Open Fire, you definitely want to find the Hippo version from 2006. That's got bonus songs on it. But anyway, yeah, that Earthquake set that John's referring to, I mean, it's a cheap way to get all of the A&M albums all at once. So you get Earthshaker, Black Tiger, Mean Streak, and Rock We Trust, Down for the Count. You get those studio albums. You get the live album, Open Fire, and then as a bonus live album, you get Live at the Friday Rock Show or Live at the BBC Live in Concert. It's both.
Right.
So Marty, Y&T have 12 studio albums, and then they got a bunch of live albums and some compilations, all of which are chronicled in the book. But yeah, 12 actual studio albums.
Yeah.
For some reason, I was thinking there were more, but there aren't. Although, and I talk about this in the book, the 2 Unearthed albums.
Yeah.
I really went back and forth. Where do I put these? Because there's a lot of unreleased stuff on here, but they were compilations of previously recorded material. So they really did belong in compilations. Although there is, there's an interview that goes with that. So the Earthquake set is a fast, cheaper way to get the music. Yeah. But John is right. The albums are kind of disjointed because you'll get an album and then you'll get 3 songs from the next album. And then that album continues. And then you get the beginning of another album. It's not perfect.
Yeah. But it's a good thing. It's cheap, like you said.
Yeah.
And I bought it to like, all right, am I going to like these guys?
Yes.
And short answer is yes. But I probably wouldn't have gotten into them as much if it wasn't for that and just enjoying those couple songs. But one thing that's always baffled me on their album covers, why do they not keep the Y&T logo for every album cover?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
It is a great logo. I mean, granted the name's okay, but the Y&T logo, it would have made a brand for them, and it would have been a great tool.
I agree with you. See, so the first 2 albums, they used their full name, Yesterday and Today. Now, and Martin Popoff talks about that. It's a clunky name. It's just a bunch of clunky words all put together. But they did come up with kind of a cool logo for it. It was very 70s looking. So then when they signed with A&M, they shortened the name because fans going to shows would call them Y&T anyway. They'd always shorten it. Now Earthshaker came out, and I like the sort of primitive looking logo on, but they didn't have a logo at this point. Right. The logo came with Black Tiger, and It appears on most of the albums, but Down for the Count is a major exception where, like I said, you finally get a song on the radio and they put this black up and down thing that just disappears.
It's so generic.
Yeah.
It's so generic.
It's so generic looking. They could have used the same concept, bizarre as it is, but if they'd had that logo front and center, especially in gold, like it should be, my opinion. They didn't use it on Musically Incorrect, but that was a lower budget. That was a minor, smaller label, and they were trying to get back out there. But I agree. I mean, logo, very. There are bands. Motley Crue comes to mind. Even Queen, even Rush, that never had a set logo, and it didn't seem to hurt them. But most bands, you get that logo, well, you want to use it, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because you look at the discography for a lot of bands, like say Metallica or Megadeth. The album where they changed the logo is the album that things started to go downhill a little bit with the fans.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like Risk by Megadeth and Load, Slang for that matter. Yeah.
Right. Oh, but Slang's awesome.
True, but I mean, commercially and with the
commercially, yeah.
And sadly, John, most fans aren't as open-minded as us, but that's
well, that's true.
You know what? After listening to Drastic Symphony's, Slang is a masterpiece.
Boy,
that's another story.
That's a whole Tim Vinyl Confession episode.
It is. Yeah.
It was my worst album of the year, by the way.
Mine.
I didn't even give it past doing the review episode. I didn't give it the time of day. Where were we going? I don't know.
We're talking about this band.
So if we're making recommendations, if somebody just wanted to start out with a single disc, I think the Ultimate Collection.
Right. This is awesome.
Which is pretty career spanning.
Oh, nice.
This is my
go-to. 2001. Hip Hop put that out. So that's pretty career spanning because really that's got something from every album except for Face Melter, which is so far the last studio album they've done, which was in 2010. So
I like the 81 to 85 compilation they released earlier on, which
that one's good too. Good too. And for a long time, that was the easiest one to get. But this one's just a little bit more complete.
Right. Yeah.
And it has 2 live songs representing the first 2 Yesterday and Today albums, if I recall correctly.
Oh,
yeah. It's neat the way that they did that. It's kind of cool, and they've also got a song on there that was recorded twice in the studio. So,
now there's an interesting comment from Henry. Look at all these people getting into Y&T.
The book is doing its job, man.
Either that or Tim is striking while the iron is hot.
Irvit's Army. Interesting.
Yeah, never heard.
I mean, I know who Ginger Baker is, but
yeah.
But now that would be more okay. So if I had to describe Y&T to someone, it's hard to describe. But the first 2 albums are very 70s, very raw. They were very much a precursor to Van Halen. They really were.
Agreed.
They really were. They were. I think that first Montrose album from '73 had to have been an enormous influence for a 4-piece, 2-guitar band, 2-guitar bass drums. Dave has always sounded a little bit like Sammy Hagar to me, not a clone, but he's in that wheelhouse.
Close.
Certain songs,
similar range, similar rap.
Especially a certain song like Lipstick and Leather, I think he sounds a lot like Hagar on that. Yeah. But they just play this. So the first 2 albums are kind of raucous, kind of mid to late 70s, but they signed to A&M, and when they did Earthshaker, Black Tiger, and Mean Streak, 81, 82, 83 are usually referred to as the trilogy. Those are generally considered their best work. Now, I agree and I disagree. I think they got better. I think they went from strength to strength, which, they did dip their toes into, Sean tells us not to call it hair metal, but you all know what I mean when I say hair metal. If you look at Contagious, they're very, very glammed out on there, and they do not look comfortable.
A lot of scarves and dangly things.
A lot of scarves, a lot of capes.
Yeah.
Purple. Yeah.
And a lot of like V-necks kind of going on.
one of my favorite quotes was from Stephen Reed from Sea of Tranquility. Stephen was a joy to talk to. He says that torsos were in play because you had like the mesh top on Joey Alves and Contagious, and I never thought about it before, but you just look at the late Phil Kennemore on that picture on Contagious. He does not look happy to be there. It's just like, you got to be kidding me. But anyway, I do have a really brief unboxing.
Yes, let's do this.
Okay,
Rob Daniels, this is your moment. Let's time for you to tune in.
I'm going to try not to make it too painful. This came all the way to me from Italy, and it's something that I thought about getting because it's, and Mike can appreciate this, it's buying something you already have. So,
okay.
I wonder.
Mike and I actually talked about this. Now, when I first show you this, you're going to be like, well, you've already got that, right? Okay. So.
Okay, yes.
It's in Rock We Trust.
I'm just going to do a close-up on you, Tim.
Their biggest selling album, 1984. Yeah. Now, what's unique about this? This is the original U.S. CD release on A&M from 1984. This is the original pressing on CD, which I've never had before.
You never see those. You never see those out there.
Now, this is the only one, because it was their biggest selling. It's the only one that A&M issued on CD in the U.S.
Oh,
so really? That makes it unique in the catalog, because even the ones that came after it didn't get. It was really only when they signed with Geffen, like you used to see Contagious and 10 out there in the used market. Not so much anymore, but I found one that was decently priced. So I thought, and Jex will really understand this, that I've got something in mind to do with what this is replacing. So we'll talk about that later. But anyway, it's just cool because I God Love Japan, because when I first started trying to get all of Y&T's albums and replace my cassettes with CDs, most of them were Japanese imports, because that's the only place you could get them on CD in the early to mid 90s. So this is, for this to actually be a legitimate US release, is kind of cool. It looks kind of, because this is an early, like if Mike and I did another rare CD episode, this is one of them. So
yeah.
Speaking of that, we should do another rare CD episode.
You think?
I just want to quickly, I just want to quickly mention, if you could show the CD again, you tell me the robot's name is Rock, which is about the dumbest name that I could.
Rock We Trust. That's
right, and the robot's name is Rock. But I do want to point out, as it's sad that this mascot didn't really take off, but Harrison, wow, your artwork, man.
Yes.
Like
let me take the booklet out again so I don't get the glare of the case.
So let's take a look at this real quick, and then I'm going to show everybody the background. I'll take us all off to show the background, but Harrison got the pauldrons right on the shoulders. He got the purple cape. He got the basic shape of the head, although, with Lego pieces, you don't have much to choose from, so he doesn't actually have the mouth, but he's got the right shape of the head. The chest piece really matches what's going on with Rock there, and, of course, the red guitar and the pose. So let's real quick, I'm going to take everybody off so we can look at Harrison's artwork. So thank you, Harrison.
That's
uncanny.
Harrison says yes to more rare CD episodes.
10 out of 10 would watch as a He-Man villain again.
Darcy. And Harrison is thanking us. No. Thank you, buddy. Thank you.
Well, Harrison also says more rare CD episodes, so I guess we have to.
I love those first two.
And Roger, I do want to address something. You've mentioned Ozzy quite a few times. Ozzy thought enough of Dave Meniketti as a guitar player that he offered him a gig.
Yeah,
wow. This is when Brad Gillis was playing for Ozzy.
When Randy was recently
deceased. After Randy died,
Okay. And imagine what that, obviously don't think it would have worked long term because Dave Meniketti's an artist, but imagine what that would have done in 3 ways: lead guitar, backing vocals, and songwriting. Like, it would have taken Ozzy's career in a different direction.
I don't think that it would have lasted because,
that's cool. That's cool.
Oh,
Wow, that's cool. That's
Oh,
history.
that
love
is
it.
neat.
That's history, Martin.
Hold
Thank you.
on to that, Marty.
yeah.
Oh, there you go. So Ozzy's still speaking highly of Y&T today.
Well, oddly enough, someone else who thought very highly of Dave was Ronnie James Dio.
I was going to say hearing aid.
Because he put Dave front and center on Stars. Because after Dio's intro, Dave's the first voice you hear.
That's right.
Oh,
That's
wow.
right. That's right. And you know, very prominent in that music video too.
Yeah.
Somewhere
And the
in
cool
the
ad
back.
libs at the end of the song.
Oh yeah. Well, all of them had some cool ad libs, to
Yeah.
be honest with you. But
But when you think about it, except maybe Paul Shortino,
yeah,
all of the guys that sang those lead, they were all names, right? It was Halford and Jeff Tate and Kevin Dubrow and Don Dokken and Dave Meniketti.
I don't want
No.
to take it too far off topic, but as soon as you said Shortino, you know I'm a fan. You know, we've had him in the intro.
He sang part of the intro, right?
Yeah.
They did such a good job syncing that up. But anyway,
I was gonna say though, when my friend Bob and I first saw the Hearing Aid video, Paul Shortino's like in shadow and he's wearing this hat. You can't see his face, but he comes out there with these amazing vocal. Forever we will shine, you know. And it's like we were
you
just like,
barely see him.
who the hell
Come
is
on,
this?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know we have to do the rare CD episode because I know I've got my Hearing Aid CD here. Yeah, here we'll just show it off real quick because Y&T have a track on here, and maybe you can tell us.
By the way,
A little bit.
By the way, that is one of very few CDs I don't have that I would like to have.
Yeah, I've never seen that out and
No.
about.
One CD issue.
Can you talk about "Go for the Throat"?
So "Go for the Throat" is a song that the band was doing live because it first appeared on Open Fire in a live version. It was also a B-side of the song "All American Boy," the studio version of "Go for the Throat." If you get the 2005 reissue of "In Rock We Trust," they stuck the studio version on there. But when the Hearing Aid album came out, it was also on there. So when I found the Hearing Aid cassette, which is all I have it on, back in '93 for $1 at Zeller's,
Man.
I was like, "Oh, this is where the studio version of "Go for the Throat" came from." I didn't know. Pre-internet, kids. You didn't know.
And also, you know, if you wanted to do some searching on YouTube, there's a Hearing Aid documentary, and Dave Meniketti, you know, he has some thoughtful words there. That, you know,
Yeah.
And it's kind of humanizes some of these rock stars a little bit.
You know, reading things about the backstory of that, I really wish that they would come to some sort of agreement and do a reissue of that, because I just think it's such a cool moment in history, right?
It has to happen.
But
for those who don't know,
how-
this was for famine relief in the mid
that
'80s.
was the hard rock heavy metal equivalent of like "We Are the World."
Yeah,
Do
you
they
can
know it's
see that.
Christmas? Yeah, like, and because heavy metal had such a bad reputation with the PMRC, that Dio just said, "Hey, you know what? We can try and make a different suit." It wasn't as successful, but it's still pretty cool.
What
Yeah.
label?
And I love all those guitar solos. I eat that right up.
This is on Vertigo.
Vertigo, yeah.
And this is a Japanese pressing because there was never any other.
Yeah, I think that's the one CD pressing ever made. And if you go on Discogs, it's probably $200+. So the fact that you've got that is, man, somebody's got to reissue that. That's
Reed kind of lost it on me when I posted this picture on Facebook.
Well, I'm guessing that there's got to be complications with like labels because all the artists are from different labels, right?
Right.
Like,
well, that's the problem, and also, I mean, the fact that there's a Jimi Hendrix song on the album. I mean, the Hendrix estate is so messed up, right?
yeah.
But guess what? Leave that off of there.
Right,
It also
exactly.
it had a live version of "Heaven's on Fire" from
Yep.
the Animalized Live
Live.
Uncensored concert.
Right.
It had "Distant Early Warning" from the Grace Under Pressure live, which at the time had never been issued on anything other than VHS and beta.
Scorpions, the Zoo live.
That's got my favorite. Do you know why we love to play California?
Do you know why?
Because you people, you really know how to party.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, okay. If you want that one, the Japanese on CD with shipping and everything, minimum $93. and up.
You know, that's actually not bad. That's
I was
actually not
thinking
bad. That
more
would
like
be under my
200.
threshold.
I would never pay that much for a CD. Never.
No, Mike,
there's a
Mike
live
is right.
Motorhead,
Motorhead's
too.
on there
I
too.
can't
With On
say
the
that.
Road. Accept is on there. Up to the Limit.
Yeah, live
Dio,
version.
Hungry for Heaven, live version of that, which is also on the Vision Quest soundtrack, which cracks me up.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, was like Hungry for Heaven like right after Crazy for You by Madonna, or Only the Young, or anyway, yes. Where were we going? Holy cow, we got to get back.
You know what? We've been on an hour, which is usually what I like to do. So I just want to.
I want to thank everybody. I want to thank you guys for taking part. You've all contributed to this. So the success of this book. I couldn't. For me to just blather on and on myself, who would have cared? But everybody giving their heartfelt opinions on this band. Yeah, it's awesome. Take a bow, and I thanks to everybody who's bought the book.
So I just want to throw it back to the Snowman and the Jexciter. Do you have any last comments or questions about this book that we are all so happy to be a part of? Snowman.
Okay. Well, first, thank you for having me on that,
No.
allowing me to be in the book. And thank you for introducing me to Y&T into a more deeper version of it. So what you wanted has succeeded with me, at least. And so it's nice now discovering a new band that's not a new band. And I get a nice chunk of catalog to go through and really get to absorb everything.
I'd just like to add that it's not discovering a band that had 3 albums.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's a pretty deep and varied catalog to get into.
Yeah.
And after reading the book,
and still to this day, not the easiest one to complete.
Especially an 8-track.
I was looking, I finally got through all the albums through the book.
Yeah.
And so now I'm really interested in the 90s stuff, because the 90s was such a crazy period that I like to see where bands ended up in those weird albums that they might have done. Theirs doesn't sound like it's weird, but it sounds like it's different than everything else. So
Just ever so slightly. Yeah. I'm really happy to say they didn't do Shadow Life. They didn't do Subhuman Race. They didn't do Belly to Belly.
Right.
Yeah. I think John.
I shouldn't have said. That's an insult to Subhuman Race and Belly to Belly. But anyway,
I like Subhuman Race, but that's another show.
I liked it, man. I like it more now than I did when it came out. You know what?
Yeah.
It's more. You know what? The musically incorrect is more like Doc and Dysfunctional, because it's got elements, right?
Roger's never going to let me live down Lulu.
They most definitely did not do a Lulu, Roger. Thank you.
No, I did not do a Lulu. How about you, Jexciter? What do you want to say when you close off here today?
Yeah, well, I just want to congratulate Tim on the book, and it's as you can see, like, people are talking about it. I've been keeping an eye on it on Instagram. People are sharing it. You see the comments, and I believe you've had at least one band member, maybe more so, comment.
John Nyman, who's the second guitar player. He's been with the band for 20 years, and he goes back with them way, way back before he was in the band. Yeah, he bought a book, which is amazing.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
That's amazing, man.
And for me, the book is extra special because I think Y&T is the first band that we kind of bonded over when we started talking all those years ago.
Listen, I'll tell you, when I would find out somebody was into Y&T, it was like, I need to talk to this person, because to this day, you still have to look around to find Y&T fans. There's a lot of us out there, but we're scattered.
Yeah,
And what did Sean say, or somebody said in your book there's Y&T fans in waiting or something like that?
Fans in waiting.
Well, Ches says there's fans in waiting. Basically, they need to hear the band, right?
Yeah.
They need to hear the band. So it's up to us.
Yeah. So no, I feel like we've come full circle. We started out by sharing our love for Y&T, and here you go. You had me in a book about Y&T, which I'm honored. So just keep it up. Excited about the future plans.
And my final comment is simply, I just finished the chapter on Mean Streak, and I'm a little disappointed. I was going to register my first complaint about the book. You did not ask any questions about the often heard Mean Streak.
I really wanted to leave that alone.
What is that about?
Dude, every time I hear the song, it sounds like he's singing
Mean Streak.
it sounds like he's saying mean street. You got a woman, you know.
I've never noticed that.
Once you hear it that way, you can't unhear it.
He does it again when he says better bend or you're gonna break. Now, I like to say he doesn't do it live like that. I just like to say that he was saying it with such passion that his teeth didn't know when to unclench. I don't know. I didn't want to go there. Okay, there's some things I just did not want to. I didn't want to go there. Although I did have to mention the fact that in the song "Take You to the Limit," the phrase "tragically hip" is in the lyrics. I had to talk about that. I'm like, that is just so weird.
And Jax, I will point out, was the only one who really had an answer to that question.
That Jax looked into. Yeah.
Everybody else was like tragically hip. Sorry, I don't really know too much about it. I think Snowman was guilty of that. But
I have a tragically hip album now.
Which one?
Aaron sent me your favorites.
Oh, dude, that's a good one. That's a 2 CD compilation.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So he said he had shown it on his site, and I was like, don't have anything by them. I said the greatest hits would probably be all I need. So he sent it to me.
I would be curious to hear your thoughts on that somewhere down the line. For sure.
Somewhere down the line. Yes.
For sure. Well, I think that about wraps it up. Let's say again, you can get Down for the Count on your local Amazon. Just do a quick search for Down for the Count, the Y&T album review. Do a search for Tim Durling, and you'll find also an Adventure in 8 Tracks Unspooled. So you've got a couple of different things you can look for. You can go to TeePublic and you can buy one of those awesome mugs or buttons or shirts. There's Unspooled right there. There's lots of stuff that you can do to help support this guy, that guy there, not so much. I don't think he has anything you can buy yet.
No.
But this guy you can support. This guy you can support. The Contrarians, Visions and Sound, and I'm sure I'm forgetting others. But Cinematic Sound Radio, our good buddy Eric Woods. So again, tpublic.com. It's quality stuff. Please check it out. Just buy a sticker if that's all you want. Gentlemen, before we wrap up, I always like to go around and find out what everybody's doing. So I'm going to start with the Snowman and go counterclockwise. Snowman, I know you always have multiple balls that you're juggling in the air. You're doing a Bon Jovi series, and you're doing Def Leppard, and you've done Jeff Scott Soto, and you've done everybody under the sun. Tell us what is on the Snowman's radar in January.
Well, it's going to be more of that, except Soto. I'm done with Soto until he releases something new.
Right.
Which he'll have 2 albums out this year. I am actually working on something.
Are you ready to talk about it?
That I haven't done before. That's coming soon. It might be on YouTube.
Okay, so he's ready to talk about
down
it a
the
little
road.
bit.
But that's all I'm going to say about it right now.
I think you've said enough. I think we get the jive. Yeah. So yet another, the community grows, and keep your eyes peeled on tooloudtooldmusic.com for some activity that's coming in the future. And it may or may not have something to do with that beautiful new microphone that's in front of Snowman's face.
I'm not going to be singing or anything.
Wait a minute. I thought that's what we were talking about here.
Oh, no.
That was part of the deal.
I thought we were talking about your new show, Karaoke with the Snowman.
I've never done karaoke. So.
He's never done karaoke. Well, if I ever meet the Snowman in person, I know what we're doing that night. Jack
I'll do a Y&T song.
Oh, perfect. Mean Street or Summertime Girls, actually.
Yes.
Jex Caliber, you are always coming up with something new. I know you are writing, and you have a Distortion Den coming.
Yes. Yeah. Well, big weekend. I'm here tonight doing your show. Tomorrow morning, got a show on Tim's Final Confessions, which I'll let him talk about. I won't take the mic on that one. And then Sunday, we finally have a new retro throwdown on the Distortion Den, Deke and I. This is actually, these 2 albums were brought up by Tim. We're looking at the Battle of 1985. And
that's what I thought when I saw them. Like, we talked about that a long time ago.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We finally brought it up to fruition. So it's Motley Crue, Theater of Pain, going up against AC/DC, Fly on the Wall.
Which I listened to 2 nights ago and enjoyed far more than I ever have in my life.
Fly on the Wall?
Yeah. I listened to it with headphones, and suddenly I was able to sort of like discern some of the vocals a little bit better because it's a very mushy sounding album.
It is. Yeah. Brian's way the heck back in the mix.
Yeah.
I can tell you my preference there is clearly in the AC/DC variety. I don't like that crew very much.
Yeah.
But I'll be checking out the Distortion Den tomorrow morning
Uh,
and
Sunday morning.
Sunday morning, sorry. And it's Tim's Vinyl Confessions that's coming up tomorrow morning. Am I right?
Correct.
Yes. And Tim, you've got some balls that you're juggling as well. Tell us what you can about what you've got coming.
So yeah, I've got in the morning. It's Jex and Ches, and I have to say, having two guys co-host named Jex and Ches is so hard to say because I'm determined to say Jez and Chex.
Yeah.
It also sounds like you're talking about like some kind of like, snack or cereal. Yeah.
There is a cereal called Chex, actually.
There you go.
Yeah. Isn't there Chex Mix or something? But,
Yeah.
Chex Mix.
Chex Mix.
But no,
It was Chex Jex.
I like Jex Mex cheese on my tacos. And
Jack should come up with a cologne called Jex Mex. Guys, make yourself a little Jex Mex before you go out and the bat to keep the ladies away. Anyway, and having the guns doesn't hurt. Anyway, so we're talking about AC/DC. It's an episode that I'm surprised I never did, but I've never done an AC/DC vinyl episode, and Jax and I have some vinyl to talk about, and Ches really stepped up because he's got a lot more. That's all I'll say. So that's coming up, and then one thing I trying to do is mix up the hosts and mix up the co-hosts this year. I'm really trying to get combinations of people that have never been on together before. So rice checks, and I'm trying to get combinations of people that have never been on before. So I've been on Grant's Rock Warehouse quite a few times. And I've been on the Contrarians with Grant, but he's never been on my show before. So I've got Grant on, and because it's January and it's cold, we're talking about yacht rock because we're freezing, and we want something that makes us think, of warmer temperatures. So that's coming up.
That'll be a fun one.
That's a great idea.
And speaking of fun, we've got a very, very fun episode, which two of the gentlemen on here and one of my longtime co-hosts did that's going to play a few weeks from now, which is going to cause so much
controversy.
It's going to be more controversial than a Rock Daydream Nation. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah. That's coming up. That was great. And I'm still I'm still getting lots of comments, good comments on my the New Year's Day episode I did with my top 30 albums from 1984.
Yeah. Can't believe you forgot all those albums that people are commenting on.
Can't believe you didn't have Scorpions on there.
I would just like to tell people they're my top 30. I'm not claiming that these are the top 30. and I'm also not going to go out on a limb and think that people could guess what my number one for 1984 might have been. But anyway, I got to tell you though, I still think that 1984 was by far the best year of the 80s for music in general.
I'm starting to think that too, because
many classic albums and classic songs came out that year.
And it was the year I discovered metal. It was, so this has been like, here's spoiler alert, folks. 2024 is the 40th anniversary of some really critical moments in my life personally with music. And I hope, gather some of these gentlemen together and do some deep dives. We've talked about doing perhaps an album like Perfect Strangers by Deep Purple, but there's so many. There's Power Slave. There's Stay Hungry. There's so many. And like I said, this is the year I discovered this kind of music. So I really hope that this year on Grab a Stack of Rock, we can really have some fun with some deep dives, which is something we haven't really done before. And I hope we can. And that's about all I have to say about that. I have next week something we're going to be doing an experiment with, which is our very first, not our very first, but a pre-recorded episode of just me solo. And it's called Too Much Music. And the idea is I'm going to be grabbing a stack of rock, just like the concept of the show was from the very beginning. Going back there, I'm grabbing a random stack of rock, and we're going to go through it disc by disc. And I call it Too Much Music because what you'll find is there's a lot of discs behind me there that are still sealed in the shrink wrap. And it's good stuff. It's not crap. So tune in next week for that, the regular time, 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard. Although, like I said, this is a pre-taped episode, and I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work with comments and stuff like that. So it's an experiment. Darcy, deep dives are the best. Well, and Darcy's another guy I want to be collaborating with in 2024. Check out his channel too on YouTube. New friend Darcy. That's about it, guys. Anything else you want to say?
Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And it's an honor and a pleasure to be in this book with these three fine gentlemen and three guys that I'm very proud to call my friends. So that's all I have to say tonight. As you know, we always like to go out on a song, and I need it to be something that is not going to give me a copyright strike. So we're going with Max the Axe tonight, Scales of Justice. It's not Y&T, but it rocks. Take care, guys. We'll see you next week for a pre-recorded episode called Too Much Music. Check out Tim's Vinyl Confessions. Check out jexcalibur.wordpress.com and the Distortion Den. And of course, this man right here. Stay tuned. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
See ya.